Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Emily, and on this channel we talk about all things bookish, sometimes college life, sometimes some vacation vlogs. And today I'm going to be showing you guys my top books of 2024. So I just moved into a new place, so pardon if this video is echoey or the lighting's bad. I have my bookshelves behind me, but they are not in order at all. This whole place is kind of chaotic, so bear with me for this video. All my books are on the side and I'm so excited to show them to you. These are so good. All of these books are so good. So hopefully you get some inspiration. Let me know what books are your favorite books of 2024. But the first two are actually pretty popular, so I put them first so that you guys aren't like droning in this whole entire time about these super popular books that you've heard a million times. The first one being Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. This book, I'm sorry, when I heard all of the hype surrounding this book, I was very skeptical, and I only read this book. I had it for a bit before I read it because I was just scared. I feel like books that are overhyped are usually ones that fall short. So I read this book for a video that was reading the highest rated and the lowest rated on my TBR. I kind of knew this book was going to be the highest rated because so many people love this book. And so I was forced to read it for that video, and I could not put this book down. It was phenomenal. Basically, it follows a girl named Violet Sorrengail, and whenever I mention this book to anybody, I always say that it's a mix between How to Train Your Dragon and Divergent, because there's different quadrants. She trained her whole entire life to be a part of the Scribe Quadrant. I knew that was going to be so hard to say. But after her brother and her father dies, her mother wants her to go into the school to be a dragon rider, which is really dangerous. There's so many different hard tasks that she has to overcome, but one of the main ones is Xaden Ryerson, who hates her and her mother because her mother killed her father. His father? Why did I say her father? His father. So it's a huge enemies to lovers. I love it so much. The tension is so good, but also there's a lot of friends and found family aspects in this book. And I love the character development in this. I said this before, I think, in the video, but who Violet is at the beginning is so completely different to who Violet is at the end of this book. I read this twice this year because I loved it so much. One of my favorite parts of this book is that there's so many mini climaxes. So like when she goes in, she's training, and that's like a whole kind of quest of its own. And then she has to train for her dragon, and then she has to get her dragon, and the whole twist with who her dragon is. Then there's the romance aspect, and there's kind of like a war aspect. There's so many different mini climaxes that you are never bored. So of course, I give this book a 5 out of 5 stars. I know it's already overhyped, but if you were thinking about it and you haven't read it yet, please pick up Fourth Wing. Another book that's probably way overhyped, Powerless. I'm sorry. I love this book so much, and I'm gonna be another person that overhypes this book to you. So it follows a girl named Peyton who lives in a world with people with powers, and if you're ordinary, aka you don't have any powers like Peyton, you are killed. And so she is hiding in plain sight, pretending to be a psychic, and her love interest, Kai, is the prince, the son of the guy that is trying to kill all the ordinaries. And not only is he the prince, but he's the enforcer, the one who kills the ordinaries. So basically, she kind of saves the prince at the beginning, and she gets entered into these trials. I always kind of say that this book is like the Hunger Games because the trials are kind of basically the Hunger Games. And of course, they use their powers within these trials, but she doesn't have any. So it's really exciting. The action is so good. The tension. I was talking to my roommate about this book and I was like, oh my gosh, like the best romance I've ever read. And she was like, yeah, and they didn't even kiss in this book. Their first kiss in the second book. I was like, they didn't even kiss in this book. You're so right. Like, to have a book where you are so in love with the romance and they don't even kiss, it was phenomenal. I do have one qualm about this book. It wasn't very original. There were so many scenes that happened that were kind of copy paste from Hunger Games, Shatter Me, Harry Potter, and even, dare I say, Shrek. And I don't want to explain to you what that scene was, but there was a scene from Shrek in there and I loved it. I definitely loved it. But I felt like I was kind of taken out of the book a lot. I gave it a 4.25 stars, but this is another book that I read twice this year and I just loved it. And Lauren Roberts, sometimes some of the scenes were unoriginal, but her iconic lines always slap and they were always from her. So again, I know it's overhyped, but definitely read Powerless. Okay, so when I was curating this list of my favorite books of 2024, there's an author that's on here 3 times. I love Ali Hazelwood with my entire being. She's my favorite romance author of all time. I know sometimes people don't love her writing because it's very quirky, it's very specific. She normally writes STEM romances, and this one that I'm going to talk about, Check and Mate, is about chess. And I have 2 more books on here that are actually not her normal STEM romances at all, but she usually writes romances that I always know what types of tropes she's gonna get into. And they're always like a different variation, so I'm always surprised. But the guy's always in love with the girl from the beginning, no matter what book. I'm gonna talk about it a little bit in these next couple books. Always writes a guy that's obsessed with the girl from the beginning. The girl's always clueless to the love and thinks, oh, maybe he like hates me. But no, he's in love with you. And usually it is a grumpy sunshine romance. So, Check and Mate by Ali Hazelwood. Obsessed. Oh my gosh, so phenomenal. I was a little scared about this book because it is a YA, and usually adult romance going into YA, it never works out well. I know Talia Hibbert did it. I read Talia Hibbert's YA and I didn't like it at all. But this one, oh my gosh, Ali Hazelwood does no wrong. This follows a girl named Mallory, and she was in love with chess, but something happened with her father in the past, so she stopped playing altogether. But her friend kind of forces her to do a little mini chess tournament, and she wins, but the guy across from her was the world champion, who's never been beat. And so he was like, oh my gosh, who is this girl? And she's offered a position to be a full-time chess player, but she wants to keep her family, her personal life, and chess separated, and as she rises up the ranks, it's hard to separate those two. So this book is more of a new adult romance instead of YA. She's 18. Nolan, the guy that's her love interest, is I think like 20 or something. Again, if you want a closed door romance, this one's for you. Kind of like Powerless. I was just reading it and I was like, wait, the tension's here, but they haven't even kissed yet, which is really, really cool. They do actually end up kissing this book because it's not a series that can continue. And don't be worried if you don't know anything about chess. You do not need to. If you've watched The Queen's Gambit and you loved that, you will love this book. The geekiness is there, but she's not a sunshine character, which is one of the first. So if you like Ali Hazelwood's writing and you've read like The Love Hypothesis before, definitely give it a try. I loved this book. Next up, I'm putting all of Ali Hazelwood's books together because I kind of want to get her out of the way, but I love her so much. So Check and Mate was her first YA romance. This was a dip into paranormal romance. Bride. It follows a girl named Misery Lark, who's a vampire. Misery Lark for a name. Misery is so beautiful for a vampire. Anyway, and she's set up into an arranged marriage with Lo, who's a werewolf. But basically, when she was younger, Misery, she was set out of like the vampire kingdom. She lived with the humans for a while. So the vampires basically hate her. Humans hate her. Werewolves hate her. So she feels like she has nowhere to go. Also, going on the STEM romance type of vibe, she's obsessed with IT. I love that she always puts something like that into her romances. And Lo, the first moment that he sees her, he is just like obsessed with her. And one of my favorite things is like he smells her and he just like loves her scent. And like I was saying, a guy is obsessed from the beginning and the girl just thinks that, oh, dang, he hates me. And I know for some people, it's like, oh, come on, that's like, what a trope. I love that trope. I don't know. However, unlike Check and Mate, where it is closed door romance, you don't see anything happen. This is not a closed door romance. It is a slow burn though, so it's stuck to the end of it, but once it starts, it's going. So just keep in mind, this is Spice, Check and Mate does not, but they're also completely two different books. So if you are looking for a new paranormal romance, give it a try. Sometimes when I say out loud, I'm reading about a vampire that's obsessed with IT, that's in an arranged marriage with a werewolf, I'm like, okay, what am I reading? But it's enjoyable. So check it out if you want to read it. Okay, last up for Ali Hazelwood is a novella. It's actually a winter novella that she did with Tessa Bailey and a few other authors. I read all of them. I was just in a mood for it. It's called Cruel Winter with You, and I read this book and I was obsessed with it. I didn't give it a 5 stars because there's certain things with novellas, like some parts of it are always rushed. It's never the author's fault, but it's always kind of like, with novellas, you always have that like time pacing issue. But this book, she gave you flashbacks. She gave you like this tension between characters. It went back and forth between previous timeline and today's timeline, and it follows a girl who her best friend's brother, there we go, has been obsessed with her since the beginning of time. Oh my gosh. But in this timeline, we kind of see her go over for like a pan that her father wanted or something. And it starts snowing and they're gonna get snowed in. And she's like, oh no, the last time I saw him, it was like so awkward and I don't know. And now I have a crush on him, but like it's been a while. And then you go back in time where you see how like the guys always had a crush on her, like since they were little, like she's known him since they were a baby. baby. It gives the winter vibes. It gives the best friend's brother vibes. The girl is a little bit awkward, a little quirky, of course. And I just want to say that I read this book and I could not stop thinking about it for the rest of the year. I literally keep thinking about this book. I'm literally finishing a book right now and it's next on my list to read again this year. It's December 31st, so I'll finish it before the year's up. But I loved it so much. And I read the rest of those novellas and they were not as good. They were like 3 stars max. But this, oh my gosh, Ali Hazelwood does no wrong. If you're looking for a short, sweet novella, wintry, giving you all the cozy feels, read Cruel Winter with You. Okay, so we went into romantasy. We've been into paranormal romance, YA, romance in general, clearly one of my favorite genres, but I wanted to get into a nonfiction book. This book is both religious and a self-help book. It's called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. And I've read a couple of self-help books that are religious this year, and every single time they kind of never hit that mark. They're either too dense or sometimes they just like, they're too dumbed down to where I'm like, okay, girl, yeah, like I already know that. Like, thanks for reminding me, but it's not like you're really giving me anything new. This book, 5 out of 5 stars. I was just obsessed with it. It's told by a pastor and it kind of starts off, I listened to the audiobook, so it's narrated by him as well. And so I kind of love that narration because he has some like funny lines. And so like hearing him read it how he intended was really nice. And it starts off with saying how when he was pastoring a huge church, he was literally just not in it. Like he was hating his life. He was always in a hurry. He was just not in a great headspace. And so he kind of not quit, but was like, I'm just gonna go pastor a really small church. Like I'm gonna leave it to you guys and we're gonna put another pastor in that church. And it goes on to talk about all the different ways to kind of eliminate hurry in your life. It's broken down into what hurry is, why it's a problem, how you can fix it, and how this will better your life. He uses a lot of different sources to kind of back up his, I guess, feelings, and of course the scriptures as well. I have recommended this book to so many people. I recommend it to you. I recommend it to anyone. It is phenomenal. I cannot wait to read more books by this guy. Kind of already forgot his name, but I'm gonna look it up because it was literally so good. So good. So if you need a self-help book that's also religious, if that's your thing, pick it up. So good, so good. Continuing with nonfiction, Crying in H Mart by Michelle Zauner. This book is a memoir and it follows Michelle Zauner's life before, during, and after her mother died of cancer. And it's called Crying in H Mart because she always associates her mother with food. And so she goes into H Mart and she smells or like looks at different food that she just associates with her mother and she's just there sobbing. And I loved this book. I'm gonna be honest. I feel like this is a lot of the time with different non-fiction books, especially memoirs. It was a little slow to get into, but once I got to like the 1/3 mark, I was just in it. I felt like she was talking to me and that me and Michelle, my girl Michelle, we were best friends. And do you understand how hard it is to just lay out your heart on the table out there for millions of people to read? It was just so raw. You could literally tell all of her feelings. You see her meeting her husband and like she wanted to get married before, you know, her mother died. And so she did it in the backyard and like to see all of her thought process, her like highs and her lows and her frustrations with her mother when she didn't have the best relationship with her. And then seeing how it not only affected her, but her father, and then how that affected their relationship. And just seeing how that affected her. She's in a music group. And so how that affected her music. It was just so good. Again, a little slow to start, but after I finish it, I cried. Again, if I saw Michelle on the street, I'd be like, oh my gosh, how are you? You're my best friend. Like I know everything about you, but you have no idea who I am. And I cried in it. After I finished, I just sat there and I was like, wow, like I can't believe some people go through these things. And I just love it. I loved it. If you are looking for a memoir, definitely read this one. Get your tissues ready. You're probably gonna cry. It's just so heartfelt and just amazing. Okay, switching up the mood a little bit, Verity by Colleen Hoover. If you know me at all, Verity is such a love-hate relationship for me. I hated Ugly Love, but I was obsessed with Reminders of Him. One of my favorite books of all time. So good. but I think that's like one of the only books that I'm obsessed with. Verity is now like right next to Reminders of Him. Reminders of Him will always be top for me, but Verity blew my mind. Again, kind of like Fourth Wing, so many people were talking about this book that I didn't want to pick it up at all, like at all. I had this on my shelves for years, and every single time that I had told people that I liked Reminders of Him from Colleen Hoover, they'd always say, have you read Verity? And I was like, no, I have it, but I'm just too scared to pick it up. And one day I picked it up. It basically follows a girl named Lowen, and she's a writer. She's struggling. Her mother just died, and she gets the opportunity to write for Verity, who was an author of this really popular book series, but she's gotten into an accident. She can't write the books anymore. And so she's like, you know what? Like, I really need this money, and, you know, this is a good opportunity, whatever. I'm going to take it. And she meets this guy named Jeremy, who is the husband of Verity. And she has this like major crush on him, but at the same time, she finds this like manuscript, basically an unpublished autobiography of Verity that paints her in a very, very negative light. However, she didn't want to like cause issues. She was like, okay, this is a little bit weird and it keeps getting worse as the more I read it, but I don't want to like cause issues in their relationship. I mean, she's like, come on, this is a really bad situation. She literally physically is just unable to do anything. So to get Jeremy mad at her, like there'd be no point. But weird things start happening around the house. She starts falling for Jeremy a little bit more, and there's just a whole bunch of plot twists. This book had my jaw on the floor. Genuinely, I was opening it and I was like, oh my gosh. Every couple of pages kind of not goes back and forth, but Colleen Hoover really likes having like notes, letters, manuscripts, those types of excerpts in her books. So it has excerpts of the manuscript, and it was crazy. It was crazy. And then at the end, everybody's like, oh, do you believe the manuscript or the letter? What do you believe? And I'm like, girl, I don't know. And then everybody's been telling me, have you read like the Target's edition, like the extra? I'm like, no, I haven't. And they're like, oh, it will change your life. And I'm like, will it? Will it? Because at the end, I was like, wait, now do I trust Jeremy? Like, Lowen, get out of there. Leave. What is wrong with these people? So I know that Colleen Hoover, I feel like people sometimes mention Colleen Hoover and they're like, oh, if you read Colleen Hoover, like you're not a real reader. Shut up. That's so stupid. I genuinely think that Colleen Hoover is amazing. I'm glad that she got so many people in love with reading again. Again, love-hate relationship, hated ugly love, like was whatever with, what was it called? I've already forgot it. The one with the flower on it. Oh my gosh, what was it called? All of her other, I've read like 5 books from her. And I've already forgotten the names, that's why, because I honestly forgot about most of them. But read Verity. And I say read it first. Read it first, love it, let's talk about it. I'm still in shock. Okay, last up, sticking with the thriller vibe, Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. When we talk about thrillers, I don't really read a lot of them. I even have a video saying reading a thriller for the first time because I genuinely had never read a thriller before. And I like them, but I can never find a 5-star book, like ever. I've read Turn of the Key, I don't read a lot of thrillers. What have I read? Funny enough, I've read Sadie and A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, and both of those are YA, and I loved those. But like adult thrillers, I never give a 5 stars until Verity, and now Rock, Paper, Scissors. Basically, it's about a married couple, and they are not doing very well. And so they kind of schedule a little getaway for themselves, but it's in a creepy barn. You have so many different perspectives. You have the wife, you have the husband. The husband has face blindness, so like that's a creepy and ominous like point to the book. Then you have a girl that's watching them named Robin, and then you get these letters the wife wrote before like every anniversary that they were married. And so like it starts off with her being in love with him, and then it slowly goes to like kind of their downfall. The big plot twist in this book, I gasped. And then I was like, okay, I have to reread these letters because I was not expecting that. From the moment I opened this book, I don't know what it was, but the feeling was so eerie, so ominous. Like I don't know what it was, but I was like, okay, I don't know who to trust. I was going back and forth between I do not trust his wife, I do not trust his husband. Are they gonna kill each other? What are they here for? Does he want to kill her? Who wants to kill who? And also, who the heck is Robin? Like, what is going on? From the moment. I've never felt like that with a thriller before. And so to get that feeling, I think is what made it a 5 out of 5 star. And then the twist, I did not expect it at all. I truly did not expect the twist. So if you're looking for a really big plot twist, read it. I think Sarah Crowley also gave this book a 5 stars. So if you don't trust me, trust Sarah. You'll love this book. Okay, so those are my favorite books of 2024, and honestly, I feel like it was a pretty good list. A couple fantasy, romance, paranormal romance, YA. It was a good reading year, I'm not gonna lie. I have a goal of reading more diversely every single year. This year, I started off great. Near the end, a lot of romances, so hopefully I can start off 2025 with some more diverse reading, some memoirs, and I don't know, we'll see what 2025 brings, but let me know what your favorite books of 2024 was. Please subscribe, comment down below, do whatever you want to do, and goodbye.